So does the ACLU still view Guantanamo Bay closing as a win necessarily, because we still have the military tribunals going on, even though they're now revising them? They're still happening. It's still unclear what's going to happen with these
Right.
detainees, where they're going to go. You know, is that still a win?
You know, I think Guantanamo is a lightning rod for criticism around the world, and an example of simply a government abandoning the law, trying to create, you know, and that was really the purpose of it, to create an area that was law-free. And so closing Guantanamo, I think, can be a win, but you're exactly right that if we simply put the same system on U.S. soil or in another foreign location, it's not really very much of a victory. It's a Pyrrhic victory where you haven't really won. And you know, our call on the administration early on was to bring those that can be tried in criminal system and start criminal trials through our Title III courts, and release the ones that we know are innocent or have no evidence that they're guilty, and then, you know, return people to the countries that they came from, where at least there's an indication that they won't be tortured. So,
are you seeing any progress in that direction, about that some of these will be turned over to federal courts?
very little. I understand that there is one detainee that is being charged criminally, but we haven't got a lot of information on that. So, you know, and again, the boogeyman that they put out there, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, he was indicted in New York in 1996 for the Bojinka plot. So he would be the easiest person to have tried, and it's really the biggest shame that they didn't treat him that way, because he could have been tried and convicted like others in that plot, Ramzi Youssef, were in United States courts, where he would be serving a lengthy prison sentence today, were it not for our abandonment of the rule of law.
And how many people have been actually convicted through these military commissions from Guantanamo Bay?
I believe right now there have been two that pled guilty, one of whom, the Australian Hicks, was released once he got to Australia, and the other, Hamdi, who was given a 6-month sentence. He was the supposed driver of Osama bin Laden. So, you know, clearly not people who the rest of the world considers a real threat to anybody's security interests.
And everybody else is just being held or has been released?
Well, yes, and that's a key thing. You know, when they talk about how difficult it is to release them, hundreds of former Guantanamo detainees have been released, and you know, we're still, you know, democracy is still free. You know, in my personal experience, having, you know, worked undercover in terrorist groups, even the worst of the worst, if you freed them, the chances of them getting back into the trust and confidence of the groups is very slim. You know, I mean, number one, they would probably be highly surveilled, not just by our government, by whatever government they're in, but also from the terrorist perspective. You know, here's somebody who's been in the custody of the enemy for 5, 6, 7 years. Would you trust that person to come back and deal with you in areas where secrecy is 100% necessary? Probably not likely.
Right.
So, you know, I think that a lot of that is overplayed, and, you know, there are a lot of bad people out there, and I know as a former FBI agent that, you know, within 2 miles of where we're sitting today, there are people who, you know, would do harm to somebody for no good reason, and it's up to the government to make sure that they protect us against those people, but adding another 100 bad people in the world is not going to make a significant difference to our security.
Talking about your experience with the FBI, you experienced firsthand retaliation when you reported illegal wiretapping that occurred when you were an agent with the FBI back in 2002. What did that whole experience really teach you about whistleblowing?
Well, I didn't realize before that there was no legal protection for FBI agents. That came as a surprise to me, and had I known that, maybe I would have chosen a different path. I don't really think so. You know, it was interesting because at the time, it was 2002, so it was right when, you know, you might remember right after 9/11, the FBI and the rest of the administration claimed that there was no information that could have been used to prevent the attack. So by the summer of 2002, the Colleen Rowley letter had leaked out that, well, maybe there was some information, and information was just starting to come into the public sphere that there were all sorts of indications that the FBI had simply missed. So in the summer of 2002, there was a call, both by the President of the United States and by the Director, that, hey, if you're involved in a terrorism case that's gone wrong, let us know right away. So I felt that I would be protected, not to mention that I had years of experience working those types of cases successfully. So I thought if I couldn't report this type of impropriety, nobody else could. And I'd never been in any kind of trouble, and I figured, I'm kind of the poster boy for this is how you're supposed to act as an agent. And I was shocked by the quickness and the severity of the retaliation. And what really shocked me most was that there was no attempt to hide it. They were very overt, and in fact, now with a little bit of time, I think it was intentionally overt, because it wasn't just about shutting me up, it was about making sure every agent out there, despite their experience, knew that if you report misconduct of your superiors, your life is not going to be easy. And since then there have been a number of instances where the FBI has been found to have retaliated against agents despite the Director's plea for people to come forward. And we're working hard with Congress to try to get them to pass legislation that will actually protect whistleblowers within the intelligence and law enforcement community. And that's really one of the most important things about it, is we have very good protections for people in the corporate world to blow the whistle about financial impropriety, but we don't have any in the intelligence world, where 9/11 is the perfect example of where there are breakdowns, there can be catastrophic consequences. So we really do need to protect those people who are taking such great risks for all of us, and yet aren't protected when they just simply want to do their job and report something that's gone wrong.
Right. Even with those protections in place, do you think it'll still be easy for people to come forward?
I don't think it's ever easy. And even when a whistleblower wins, they carry a stigma with them as the tattletale. There's somebody you need to be careful around, which needs to change. And but if the administration forces the agencies to start protecting these people and actually promoting them and promoting the disclosure of impropriety, it can start pulling it out. I mean, it's interesting that studies have been done that show that most people who see misconduct on the job don't report it. And they don't report it primarily for two reasons. One, that they don't think reporting it will actually change anything. And two, that they fear retaliation. So, imagine how difficult that will be for a company to do the right thing and to be efficient. But when you're talking about an agency that's responsible for national security, when that agency can't be efficient, and I mean, there are too many examples, but the CIA, the number 3 person in the CIA, was convicted of fraud, during the so-called war on terrorism. That this official is misusing funds that are designed to protect our country. And, so that type of misconduct does happen. And unless we catch it early, who knows what terrible things could have resulted from the fact that we didn't have the resources to direct to real investigations because somebody had diverted funds.
Right, absolutely. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.